run this mother. Yeah. Girls, we run this mother. Yeah. Girls, we run this mother. Yeah. Girls, we run this mother. Yeah. Who run the world? Girls. Who run the world? Girls. Who run the world? Girls.
Hello and welcome to another episode of She Worked Hard, Real Women, Real Life, a platform for women to share their story. Today we are welcoming Shannon, my beautiful, wonderful best friend and physician assistant, and we're going to talk about her journey today from where she began to where she ended up and how she got to where she is. Welcome, Shannon. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Laura.
How are you doing?
I'm great.
Good.
I'm honored to be here.
Thank you so much for coming. I'm excited to dive into your story and to share it with the world because it's so impressive, and I'm excited that you're here.
Thank you.
Do you want to jump into some questions?
Let's do it.
All right. Talk to us about how and where your journey began.
My undergrad was actually in business marketing. I went to Montana State on a golf scholarship, of all places to go for golf. Montana was the one, and we would have like our home tournament in Phoenix, and I majored in business marketing, and I did all right at it. It never really like fueled my passion, if you will. And I got a great job right out of undergrad. I did an internship between that junior and senior summer in medical sales, and came out, realized, this is great because I get to hang out in the operating room and be around doctors. And I realized what a PA was, and I realized quickly also that I didn't really love the business side of medicine, or maybe business in general in reality. And I ended up kind of talking to one of the physicians I was targeting, and he said, well, why don't you come and work for me? And so he kind of hired me as his scribe, medical assistant. And there were a few things that led to that choice, and I fell in love with medicine. Was talking to him after clinic one day, and I said, you know what, I think I want to be a PA. And so I started with the hardest class, in my opinion, which was chemistry. And I just started at like ACC, which is a little local community college, and I got an A.
Of course you did.
Okay, if I can get an A in chemistry, I can do this.
Totally.
So I would work, get up, work out before work from 8 to 5, and then I would go to class from 6 to 10 with the lab and everything. And it took almost 4 years to do that, and then I was timed to get the higher level prerequisites, kind of like biochemistries, organic chemistries, and I knew I was going at a snail's pace because I could only take a class or two a semester.
Right, while you're working.
While working,
yeah.
Yep. And I ended up quitting my beloved job at Panorama.
I remember that.
And I became a full-time student.
Yeah.
And waitress at night, or kind of over lunch shift, and then I would time my studies with that.
Around that.
Yeah, and I applied to 17 different PA schools.
I remember that.
And I did not get into the one in Colorado that I had my whole
plan around
and life set on. I didn't get into that one, but then I found out I got an interview in Oregon, over in Connecticut, North Carolina, and I went out, I interviewed, and I got into PA school, which was a really big accomplishment.
Yes, such a great day.
Yeah. And I think there were 2,500 applicants for 41 spots.
Unbelievable. And it's amazing.
Made it through, and PA school was about 3 years of just
hell,
like literal blood, sweat, and tears, and feeling like you're not gonna make
Yeah.
it. Like
You
two
almost
thumbs
like
up,
you almost like
drowning
black
underwater.
out, you know?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you're like, how did I get here? I blacked out.
Learning all sorts about medicine. So the first year and a half or so is didactic. So you're in a classroom learning, just, drinking like water from a fire hydrant, they say. And then the second half is going on rotations. And my program had rotations all over the country. So I started with general surgery in a tiny town outside of Nashville, Tennessee. I would do like
Didn't you do like an Indian reservation or something?
Yep.
Yeah.
I like learned how to like catch a baby in Fallon, Nevada, which is like on the
Amazing.
Indian reservation.
Amazing.
I got to go to Hawaii.
That's
I got to go
right.
to Bend, Oregon. I had one through Panorama, which was kind of where it started, my story.
Yes.
And I was at the hospital doing like the trauma surgery thing more hours than I was at home, and I was like, this is not
for me.
the one that I want to do.
Yes.
And then made it through PA school, then you study and take boards, and
Amazing.
so that's kind of my journey to becoming a PA.
I love that. I love that. Outside of being a PA, you are so much more than that. You're
thank you.
a wife and a mother, and you're a clinician, and I was hoping we could talk a little bit about those other things that make you who you are.
Of course.
Yeah. So talk to us about your son and being a wife and kind of how you got to that spot in your life.
Yeah. I can't really talk about my son Oliver without first mentioning my incredible husband Luke.
Yes.
This for both of us was completely unexpected.
Yay.
I was married before.
Yes.
I was with my ex for 10 years. We were college sweethearts. I was kind of the golfer. He was a big football player, and we
It couple in the
and
college
we
life.
Yeah,
Yes.
we were just college sweethearts, and it was just kind of, 10 years passed you by, and
Yes.
some decisions were made that weren't the best for marriage, and
Yeah.
I think that our views of what marriage were
very different.
Very different.
Absolutely.
I was really passionate about my career and progress, and
Yes.
I think he was kind of wanting like
Something
stay-at-home
different.
wifey, a little different.
Yeah.
And so I went through PA school, dated. I got a divorce amidst PA school. Do not recommend that.
Sounds incredibly difficult.
You were there every step of the way.
It was hard. It was
Yes.
hard. You're amazing.
Yep.
This is why we're here. We gotta talk about this.
Yeah.
All these amazing women and like the resilience
Yeah.
is just super admirable.
Thank
I think
you.
you're amazing.
Yeah. So I came very broken, and I learned how to I put myself back together piece by piece, and it was soon after starting my first job in Portland, Oregon, and I was on Bumble and just kind of not meeting a lot of genuine people, and you'd have a great date, and then I was officially ghosted once, and that it was like, what is this world, right? Because I hadn't
Totally.
dated since I was 19.
Yes.
So-
it's a totally different world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I had kind of dated someone else a little more, and then he kind of bruised my heart a little bit, and I had really just sworn off, and I was like, you know what, if I want to have kids or something, I can do that on my own. And
Totally.
I've made it this far. And then I was, had a little wine one night, and I was playing with Bumble and matched with this guy who wasn't my type, but we had just kind of started to have a genuine conversation.
Yes.
He convinced me to have a beer, and I almost didn't go. I didn't dress up or look cute or anything. And I walked in, and I thought, oh man, I'm in trouble. He's really cute. And he was so genuine, and he just, really wears his heart on his sleeve, and it was everything I needed. So soon after our non-first date, he asked me on an official date.
Yes.
And the rest is history. We were pretty much inseparable.
Yeah, and he's so, just speaking from, experience with you, he's so opposite from what you have picked in the past,
Yeah.
And he had, all these tattoos, and you were used to more clean cut. And
Yeah,
that
a
was-
little more preppy
Yeah.
golfer,
Yes.
just athlete. And,
Yeah.
And he's a reader and writer and
I mean,
loves to
he's
drink
basically
whiskey
a poet.
And yeah,
Yes.
he has like all these tattoos. And one thing in one of his pictures, which I would kind of like scan through the pictures,
Yes.
he had a big like cigarette hanging out of his mouth, and being like a medical provider, I'm like, no, probably like
no smoking.
but in his bio, he said, I'm not a smoker. I just really like this photo of me because I look like a writer. And I was like, okay, you know.
That sounds like a very Luke thing to say.
Just to make sure that people were really reading his profile. So
I love it.
we met. We're very different. I would say
Yes.
I'm a little more like type A, and A plus B equals C, and like let's
Yes.
go for it. And he's more in his feelings and how do we
Yes.
feel about this, and you know, that has made for a lot of dynamic growth in our
Yes.
relationship.
Love that.
But we
need to coin that phrase.
Yes.
Dynamic growth.
I've learned how to apologize.
Yes.
He's like learning.
Me too, girl. I feel you there. Part of growing up, apologize.
Yes.
Yes.
And he worked in Child Protective Services.
That's
so
right.
was very passionate about not having kids or bringing more
right.
kids because there's such a need. And I'd always wanted kids
Yeah.
at some point, but I had
Totally.
really before then decided that I want them. I
Yes.
don't know how Luke will feel about me sharing this, but he had a vasectomy. Like felt that strongly. And
Yes.
we had a very long 45-minute conversation about how he was kind of thinking about it. He kind of thought he would be an uncle forever. And I was like, well, I want kids. So like, is this going to stop
Yeah.
here, or is it going to continue?
Yeah.
We got engaged after knowing each other for about 9 months.
Yeah.
And then we got married 3 months later. So we got engaged in November, and then in January he actually had his vasectomy reversed.
That's right. I remember.
And then we got married in March, and then we just wanted to enjoy each other for a little
Absolutely.
bit. And I was very much okay, well, if this doesn't work, we've tried everything we can.
Absolutely.
I would like to have kids, but I would be open to adoption or some of these other ways of having
Avenues,
a kid.
yeah.
And we tried for a little bit, and we found out on Christmas Eve one year
That's
that
right.
we were of 2020 that we were expecting.
Yeah.
And in August of 2021, we had baby Oliver.
He's so cute.
Yeah.
Sweet baby Oliver.
Yes.
Loves that little boy.
And Oliver is very much a blessing to both Luke and I.
Yes. And all of your friends and family.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And about halfway through my pregnancy to the day, so pregnancy is 40 weeks. So at 20 weeks, I had my ultrasound. And on that exact day, my dad passed away. And Oliver, like, carries
miss him so
on
much.
his legacy.
Absolutely.
And my dad's name was James Thomas. He went by JT.
Yes.
And Oliver, it's Oliver James.
I love that.
And another wonderful thing about Luke is he took my name.
Yes.
So
We love him.
yes, yep.
That's
So Luke Donegan and Oliver shares his grandpa's name, and that would have, because I was a girl, my dad he was the fourth, so Oliver gets to carry on his legacy.
I love that so much. And I think I want to acknowledge that your love story is such a beautiful, story about how maybe a person isn't exactly what you think they should be,
Yeah.
or exactly what you think you want. And just because somebody doesn't fit into your box doesn't mean that they're not the perfect person for you. I mean, look at
Yeah.
your life. Like, you have an amazing son, an amazing husband, and it wasn't what you expected or what you thought, but life brought you this gift.
Yes.
And your dad passing away and your son coming in, just the synergy of that has to be acknowledged.
Yeah.
It's just a really beautiful, magical gift in a way. Of course, it's just a massive loss to lose your father and a parent, but to have your son then come in at the same time is really an interesting gift from the universe, if you're a believer of those things, which I know that we both are. And I just think that I want to acknowledge that the love is amazing and the timing was amazing in your life.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's just like a cosmic thing working for you, and that I think is just super special.
Yeah. I think you said that so well, and you know me, and I
do.
I had like my vision board, and I had my literal check boxes hung in my fridge
Yes.
of my partner
This
has to
and
be
this
this and
and
this
this
and this
and this
and
and
this.
this. Yes.
And he didn't check a lot of those boxes,
Yes.
but there were so many that I didn't even think of.
Yes,
I
that
knew
you
I
didn't
needed.
know that you need. It's so
And,
true.
Yeah, so it's meeting Luke has been such a blessing, and then creating this life together, and then creating life within our son is
Totally. It's so
pretty
beautiful. It's been an absolute pleasure to watch. Since we were talking about your dad, can we talk about your childhood a little bit, and little baby Shannon and how cute she was?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
I am an only child.
Yes.
My parents are the most opposite two people you would ever meet. My dad was very larger than life. You walked
Yes,
into the room
so much
or a
personality.
restaurant, and by the time he left, everyone's like, who was that? He would do magic. He was
Yes.
just life of the party.
He was basically famous. Everywhere he went, everyone was like, who is that man?
Yes. He was just such a character.
Wonderful character.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jovial and bright. And my mom is a lot more into her home life, and she's a businesswoman, sold real estate. So a lot of my kind of business mind and all of that really comes from my mom. And growing up, I would be with my mom during the weekdays, like Monday through Friday, and then my dad on the weekends. And I think that suited both of their personalities, and I think that has made me kind of, because they're so polar opposite, the happy
happy medium. I totally agree with that. And is that where your love with golf came in, is spending weekends with your dad?
Yeah, that's right. We would, when I was little, 5 or 6, he cut off a golf club in half, and I would go out with him, and then he got me some lessons. And I was like, this is kind of boring, Dad, but I guess I like it, And he entered me into a tournament, and I think there were 7 girls, and I still am friends with them today, and they are all professional golfers except for 5 of the 7 ended up going pro at some point.
Shut up.
From little
how did
Colorado
this little
junior
talented
golf.
group of baby golfers get together?
And I won that tournament. And
You
I was like,
did?
okay,
This
I like
job.
it.
I
like
didn't
golf.
know this story.
Yeah,
This is
and
great.
The rest of it kind of unfolded, and then there are so many scholarships for women just because of Title IX and golf. I think there was like 200 plus unused golf scholarships even just last year.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So it was, I would have had to pay my own way somehow to go to college,
school,
and this was kind of paved my way into a very bright future, I guess.
Yes. So we need more little girls in golf, is
Yes,
what you're saying.
absolutely.
Okay, all right, okay. We need to, can we say it again? More little girls in golf.
Absolutely.
Okay, we got it. Okay.
And I think it's such a special game, in that it's a lot like life, in that it's not gonna go exactly according to plan, or you might be kind of in the sand bunker, or you might hit a shot in the water.
Yeah, it's just like
or
life.
You're scrambling, right?
Yes.
So and it's adapting to whatever situation you are put in. It's there's a lot of etiquette. There's you're spending 4 or 5 hours with whoever on the golf course.
Yes.
And back to my dad, we'd go out and play on the weekends. We never joined a country club. My home course was Family Sports Center, where my coach was. And
out here in Parker, Colorado.
Yeah.
Yes, it was a good little...
so-and-so teeing off when they're from Denver Country Club and Columbine Country Club and Glenmore Country Club. And I was like, Family Sports Center.
You didn't need that country club. You did it anyway.
But we would go play all over, and my dad and one of our favorite things to do, we'd always inevitably get paired up with two guys.
Of course.
And we'd let them hit, my dad would hit, and then I would go tee off from the same
And kick their butt.
box. And then I am pretty consistent, and like we would just like make little bets on what hole they would start
Yes.
to like fall apart secondary to their egos.
They're like, how is this little girl beating us? We don't understand what's happening.
So that, yeah. And we recently moved back to Colorado, like just
Yes.
2 months ago now. I was in Portland and then the Bay Area, and I just drive around town and I know every golf course, right?
Yes,
Because that's
right.
where my dad and I lived our weekends, and so many memories, right, coming back
Totally.
here.
And you took golf all the way to college. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Talk to me about that.
Would like my
Like you were playing D1, right?
yeah.
So, and you guys traveled around.
Yeah,
and-
yeah. So we would, so I went to Montana State, and we would actually have our home tournament in Phoenix because Montana snows a lot.
Oh, that makes sense.
So we'd have 2 seasons, fall and spring.
Okay.
But our, I don't know, our schedule, if you will, we'd leave on Saturday morning. We'd fly out to wherever we got to play in Hawaii and Oregon and Stanford's tournament. So
Cool.
we would Idaho, Washington. So we'd fly out. We'd play a practice round of 18 on Sunday.
Okay.
We would play 36 holes on Monday, which is 18 rounds in wind, rain, snow.
That's a
you name
lot.
it.
That is a lot.
And then we'd play 18 Tuesday. We'd fly home Tuesday and then be in class back on Wednesday. We'd have proctored, tests on the plane by our coach. We missed
So this
a lot
is like
of
having
school.
2 jobs. It was like school and
Yeah.
being a D1 athlete. I mean,
yeah.
it's so disciplined and so time consuming.
And only 5 girls travel. We had 10 on our team. So like you might have made it to that tournament that week, but the girls who didn't make it, they've been practicing the whole time. And then you're doing playoffs Wednesday when you get back after class. So it's very,
intense.
and then of course you're like living together, and gets a little cutthroat.
Right. Sounds super
If
intense.
and always it's golf, it's a game of
Yes.
inches, or it comes down to just a couple.
I love that.
Strokes, yeah.
I love that. So tell me about your first job.
My first job
Yes.
would be at the golf course. Surprise, surprise. So
Shocker.
I would work at one of the nice country clubs. Like I worked at Castle Pines Country Club, cleaning golf clubs, valet parking.
Yes.
Just the
norm.
Yeah, caddying, that kind of thing. So it was a great summer job, but you'd go from like 5 to 1 would be your shift, and then I'd get off and I could practice for free.
So that's such a nice perk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of were always my summer jobs, would be kind of, and then Colorado Golf Club opened in Parker. So I worked there one summer, and it was a great job,
Yeah, absolutely.
just for like that kind of in between the summers.
When you got done, you're going, you have your first couple of jobs, you did really well in high school as far as like your GPA. You were always like a great student. I remember being very envious of that of you. And when you went to college, how they're like, your grades matter and all the classes you choose matter, and they like drill all those things into your head, like your GPA and the classes you choose. And if you were to talk to a younger woman or a younger person, like, do those things really matter? Did they matter for you?
Yeah, I would say I'm feeling like a big shot, right? I have this scholarship.
Yes.
And, like school, it's easy. I can do this. And
For you, it was easy.
I took 19 credits my first semester.
Why?
Of freshman year. Nobody really counseled. That was probably not the best idea.
Yes.
And I went to classes, but they moved twice as fast as they would in high school. So I was like, I know this. I don't really need to go. And then I went and I fell behind. And I actually did not get a good GPA my first semester freshman year. I think I got like a 2.5.
Ugh.
And that impacted me for the rest of the time. And those are kind of like your core classes. So when you I wanted to do business, it was kind of like those economics and statistics, and yeah, it just was not.
It just didn't end up being as
smart.
easy.
Yes.
Okay.
I should have maybe done less credits, taken some of the easier classes, just because you're adjusting to this whole
new environment,
life.
Yes.
And you're homesick, even though I was very ready to get out of Colorado and start this whole new life. You're navigating, competition against your teammates, and
you're like living on your own for the first time. Yeah, all those things are hard.
I think the classes, right? You have to take those classes to kind of
figure out where
like criteria to graduate.
Right, right.
It was my senior year, and there was one of those classes I didn't take, and I took human nutrition, which is very like medical, like physiology, and that was my favorite class.
See, I feel like that's how you figure it out.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, this class fits with me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
absolutely.
Me and you get along. Like me and chemistry, we don't get along. You get along. We don't get along. Yeah.
So
I get that.
Kind of like I was saying before. So I had graduated in May with I got a double major in business in Spanish.
Yes, that's right.
And then I came out, and that's when I started that chemistry class was like the next January. And I was a semester away by the time I got into PA school from having a major in biology and a minor in chemistry. So
crazy,
a lot
Shannon.
of school.
A lot of stuff in that brain. You got a lot going on up there.
I think of that Kanye West song. I know he's like not, I don't know.
So he's not as
now,
popular.
But look at my degrees, man. I got all these degrees. So I felt like that. But then
they're like the degrees are rolling out of the scroll.
Yes.
They're like, Shannon, do you need more degrees? No.
But finally have a salary, and it's like,
and
but
a
it
career.
took a lot of time and degrees.
And a lot of work.
A lot of work.
A lot of work. Tell me the worst job you've ever had, because it's so entertaining to hear people's worst jobs they've ever had.
I don't know if I had a bad job.
Have you ever had a bad boss, bad job, anything in that realm?
I think the golf course, I was always a summer job, but it could get a little old man creepy, like,
yep, sure do.
This little, like
cute little blonde, young, adorable
and
golfer.
I'll slide you an extra 20, and a little creeper status for sure.
Yeah.
I would say the most challenging job I had was being a waitress. I think that everyone should do that, whether it's for multitasking or just like learning how to interact with people.
Yes.
There are so many dynamics in a restaurant.
Totally.
And
the memory, like you have to memorize. I remember you would tell me you had to memorize the entire menu and wine list.
Yep.
And I'm like, how on earth do people do that? It was like thousands of items.
Yeah. And that prepared me actually a lot for PA school, right? You have to I don't know, do your wine glasses.
Yes.
And so I worked at Earl's, which is a
great
place
restaurant
downtown Denver.
Yes.
And then they had closed, they had a big renovation, and I then worked at the Keg Steakhouse. They're both like Canadian-based companies, and very well run, but it wasn't really, I don't think I've had a bad job, but
that was a hard job.
Those were hard jobs. And you had to wear like heels, and you're carrying these big
trays of heavy drinks and food.
And they're, Earl's is like right in that business sector. So I remember walking up the back stairs, which are like laden with grease and everything, and
like don't fall down.
Dropping a whole tray of like all the soup.
No.
Or the first bottle of wine I tried to open. I know my wine. My dad was actually a sommelier, like in his laundry list of all the things he was, but the cork broke off in the bottle because I think I was so nervous.
Yes.
And it was these like 4 businessmen, and I like made it work, right?
You made it
I
happen.
pushed the cork in.
You pushed the cork in. Stop.
And then like my manager's over here watching me. I'm like, oh my
Oh, that's amazing. I mean, you got to improv. You got to do what you got to do to get that bottle of wine out.
Yeah, but you're on.
Yeah,
right?
you're on. You're
on.
ready to go.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, I don't know.
One thing that you touched on that I wanted to just bring back up was that you said that waitressing job, which was really difficult, prepped you for your PA job.
Yeah.
I think it's super important to remember in the moment that just because you're not where you want to be yet doesn't mean that it's not serving you in the moment.
Absolutely.
And teaching you something and giving you a skill.
Yes.
I know that every person that you meet, especially women, you know, they have some kind of backstory that discusses how they got to where they are, which is why we're doing this show, of course. And, you know, part of that is those pivotal moments in life where you're like, oh, I have this aha moment that, you know, maybe it's you were going to be a waitress forever, right? You don't know. But for you, it was becoming a PA.
Yeah.
And so when you transitioned, you knew being a waitress wasn't the end goal for yourself.
To serve so I could
and it helped you get there.
And,
But what was that aha moment where you were like, this, was it the class that you took that you were like, this is it? Like I know that I want to be a PA.
So yeah, that's a great question. So I remember, I think I mentioned this earlier that my first job out of college was medical sales.
That's right.
And it was very cutthroat. And speaking of maybe, I guess that would probably be my not great job. There was, you know, my boss had the kind of like see one, do one, teach one mentality. And then kind of also had the expectation to do him as well.
Stop
and I was
it.
like,
Stop it. No.
This is not the
This is
vibe,
not
right?
the vibe for me. I am out of here.
Pitted against each other a little bit. So that job did not last very long. And I said, but I got to see, I loved being in the operating room. I loved kind of being around medical professionals and patients. And I was like, well, what can I do that's in medicine? And like, could I do medicine? And I was just kind of Googling, and I found out like through that job what a PA was. And I was looking at CU's program, and I said, okay, I just have to take these classes and I can apply. And I remember I was just like looking on my laptop, and I went outside and it was pouring rain, and I just was like, I'm going to be a PA.
It was pouring rain?
Yeah.
Can we just add
like,
to the drama of the scene? It was raining on me, and I was like,
yeah. I guess
love
I didn't
that.
say this. I was laid off.
During that?
Because of
this man?
Because there were,
Wow. That's awful.
So,
I'm sorry.
But it was meant, right?
It was meant to be. Yes, it was. I mean, silver lining. Interesting that it netted out that way, though.
And I knew I had a lot of classes to take, and I didn't think it would take 10 years. But
it was worth it.
It was worth it. Yeah.
So from my perspective, you're very calm, and your demeanor in general, you know, I could call you and tell you my house is burning down, and you're like, okay, here's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
Here's how we're going to handle it.
Yeah.
And you and I are a very good balance for that reason. So for other women or men or whoever's trying to get into this profession, what temperament do you think is it necessary to be calm in this profession, and has that aided you in your success?
You know, I think it, you know, in my class of 41, we had very different personalities and people from very different walks of life.
Okay.
Someone who had like studied rheumatic fever in South Africa, and someone who like knit during class and never took a single note, and she like knit all these socks and was like very like Portland's, you know, like granola type, and very loud, outgoing, moody, you know. So I think being a PA, no, you're gonna have very different personalities. I think your temperament might dictate more of what specialty you go in. So
interesting.
I work in right now OBGYN, and that and very, you know, women centric. So I feel like that helps kind of having that nature. But and that, you know, I thought I would love like trauma surgery, and that was not my personality at all. I'm like, not gonna be like reducing fractures and
I don't even know what that means. It sounds really
if
scary.
someone like breaks their arm right in the emergency room, they can reset it.
Oh God.
So, or you have neurology, and those tend to be like the very like intricate, or like hematology or oncology. You know, there's so many different specialties. So I think that personality contributes more into that versus just getting into PA school.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I think that's helpful. So it's more about like the specialty that you go into.
Yeah.
As far as being a mother and being a PA and a wife and a friend and all of these other things that you are, how do you manage a work-life balance? I think a lot of women struggle with that. You know, we're getting better about helping women out in the workplace, but we need to do a lot more. We have a lot more work to do, not we, but like our employers. So how do you manage all of that with your time?
I think, you know, I do, I don't know, like I'll meal prep.
Yes.
I try to kind of schedule, you know, I think working out is really important just for just stress reduction and dealing
mental
with,
health.
you know, I had this crazy case today or, you know, so kind of scheduling that in. It has taken a lot to get to this point. Oliver's going to be 2 in August, and we kind of just hit a stride of, you know, you feed him dinner and I'll do this, because once he came and was, you know, was like breastfeeding and just the whole, like they just need you so much. It has been at times impossible balance to strike. I think just being a PA in general gives me a work-life balance because of the nature of the career.
I love that.
And I'm working with a lot of surgeons, and I often have to like pull back and be like, well, this is, you know, at the end of the day, like it's still my license, but they talk about really not having a work-life balance. Like I can see that on a daily basis. So I feel like because of my job in nature, I am able to have a work-life balance.
Well,
which
that's
is
wonderful.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's good for people to know, you know, if you do want to have a family and you do want to have a career, that it is possible. Especially if you choose a career that, you know, allows you to work 4/10s or, you know, having this different schedule. I think that's really insightful. So thank you for sharing that. I think I know the answer to this question, but what are you most proud of in your life?
I am very proud to be my father's daughter.
Oh,
and I'm very
so
proud
sweet.
to be Luke's wife, and I'm very proud to be Oliver's mom.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm very proud to have you as my best friend.
Thank you.
I mean that wholeheartedly. What would you say to your younger self, or any words of wisdom that you would like to leave us with today?
I would say just to not let anybody tell you you can't.
Love that.
You know, when this was becoming a PA was a dream, to put it into reality, there were so many people along the way, whether it was a professor, my husband at the time.
Yes.
Like I was right before I was supposed to go, his mother-in-law was like, "Oh, you're still gonna do that?" Because we were on the rocks and
just the haters, man.
So just don't listen. Don't listen to the haters. And if you have that drive within you, just to listen to that, and that will guide you. And I think that's guided me in my career. I think that's guided me in finding this wonderful partner and creating this life. But and also the other thing I would say is there's no time frame that you have to fit in, right? There were people in my PA class who were 50, and there were people in my class who were 22. And I think you go through high school and you go through 4 years of undergrad, and then you're just expected to be a professional or, you know, do higher education. But it doesn't have to look like that straight path.
Totally.
So go back at 50 and get that degree you wanted to be. Like I always tell Luke that Ray Kroc didn't start McDonald's until he was in his 50s, and there's many, you know, that's the only one I can think of because I always say that. But there's no direct line to
and to success,
right?
And to ultimately to happiness. You know, we all are on a path. And a big part of the reason for this talk show is to show and highlight to the world that none of our paths are linear.
Yep.
And none of them are the same, which is what makes it so beautiful and so interesting
Yes.
and so inspirational, you know, for all women and men and people. You know, we don't necessarily all have that. Some of us don't have the ability to do it in a straight line because of lack of resources.
Yeah.
But some of
Or
us
support,
just
yeah.
are on a different path, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for
Yeah,
coming
of
today
course.
and
Thank
talking
you.
with us. Your story is so inspirational, and by sharing, you're going to encourage so many people
Aw,
and so many women to, you know, be inspired and to go after their dreams. And that is so exciting.
Yeah.
And you never know who needs to hear it. But
Yeah.
I think that today, sitting with you, I'm so impressed and think you're such an amazing
Aw,
person.
thank you.
And I love you, and thank you for being here with me
Thank you. I love
today.
you too.
Please remember, she didn't get lucky, she worked hard.